That's James's meal. Nothing too fancy. Some fried potatoes, spinach, peas, mango I don't know, some sort of curry sauce and brown rice. And I'm going to talk about Rent-A-Pal, which got the top of the stack rating. I didn't know a Will Wheaton thing would ever do that for me, but Man's Favorite Sport next, and then Arch Enemy was the last one. And it looks like James is talking about hockey again, because he likes
Actually,
hockey.
I've just been threatening that. I've been talking about dictatorship, but I'll really be talking about dictatorship when I'm talking about the 1972 series.
Lovely cookies for free.
Sweet! Yeah, from the library.
From the library, they were...
No, it was not the library itself giving the cookies away. They were offering a forum.
Yeah,
for
the
people
Home
to...
and Garden. It was Home and Garden show today, or is still right now, but we won't.
Yeah, maybe rush down and catch it. There's not a huge rush to catch things because I think people are away on a long weekend. But if you're not away, you'll run across some very nice people and some people who are doing things that will help out with your health or with your psychological health. There were a couple of talented artists there.
Yes.
Macrame or knotting, and very good
collage artist.
She hasn't been doing it, I don't think, for very long. She writes poetry as well.
Honestly, I think everyone should be doing collage art right now. You can get
the thing to do.
The prints, pages, and photocopies are 25 cents a page or something at the library. They've raised the price to 25 cents a page, but it's still cheap. It's color. You can get color printouts and stuff and make your own collages, and it doesn't take long to let your imagination play out onto
really. It really lends itself to surrealist kind of effects. Sometimes things look maybe more like a movie poster where there's a kind of hierarchical perspective. Maybe that's what it's called. The ancient Egyptians would do it. The perspective was such that the pharaoh was much bigger than his subjects, or even, sadly, his wives. And this would be in reliefs or in paintings or in monumental sculpture, where gods would be a lot bigger than mortals. That would be something.
It's a lot spicier than I thought it would be.
Now, what is that? The sauce or the gravy? Okay, I'll mix the peas and then because if it's hot for you, it'll be scorching for me. Yeah. Maybe I'll mix the potatoes in, and that's spinach, right?
Yeah. James just came back and I was sleeping in front of the TV.
I woke Pauline up, so she's...
I'm a little bit groggy with doing this deck dinner prep.
She's not grouchy, though.
Rent-A-Pal was awesome. I really enjoyed it.
So who's Will Wheaton? Where have we seen him before?
He's the little kid from Star Trek. He was on, I think it was Voyager.
I didn't follow those later series very much, but I've heard his name before. People kind of joke about him, right? No? Wouldn't that be something that... Yeah, exactly right. So it'd be something that Colbert would be joking about, or...
No, it was... You would have heard him... what's that? Third Rock... No. I can't remember what the name of that is.
30 Rock?
No, I didn't like it. It was,
Third Rock from the Sun?
No, it had nothing to do with that. I was just...
Okay.
It's the Big Bang Theory.
Oh, right. Oh, you're right. That's where I heard about it. They'd always be talking about Will Wheaton. So I knew there was some sort of joke involved, but I don't recall him ever seeing him to remember him.
Star Trek stuff.
I didn't watch much of it. I did see Geordi, and Data.
Yeah, I think that was on the same show, maybe.
Yeah, I guess I just didn't. It didn't trigger my memory system. I remember the one woman that was he a cyborg? She kind of had a patch over her eye or something like that. She was way too thin, blonde. And I remember the fascist woman captain, and I remember the fascist male captain, otherwise known as Jean-Luc
Yeah.
Picard,
So
stuff like that.
in Rent-A-Pal, it's really interesting. I never would have thought of it, but it's said in 1990. It says, and now people do like online dating and all sorts of things pretty commonly, I think. But back in 1990, if they did it, it would have been like this. It would have been on video cassettes that you would have had to buy from the company, you know, or whatever. Because how else would you have gotten the information about people? And so this one guy, he's having a really hard time finding a love interest. And he ends up seeing this video in a stack for Rent-A-Pal, which is just a video of a guy sitting there in a chair, and he'll say, so he'll ask a question and then he'll wait for a response and whatever. And so it gets to the point where the guy has watched the video so many times that his responses fit the time perfectly for, it's pretty good. Anyway. And I don't know. I mean, it says Will Wheaton plays one of the scariest villains of the year. Villain? I don't know if RogerEbert.com, I don't know if they actually watched the show, because
he's just phoning in his review.
I mean, he's on a video cassette, and there's nothing really supernatural about it. Anyway, it's awesome.
Generally, I don't have a problem with Ebert, but he might maybe blew this one.
Man's favorite sport. Rock Hudson was very handsome.
Yeah, almost to the point of prettiness. But I'm telling you, I just knew Paula Prentice as a name, but she's even prettier than him. It's quite impressive, yeah. I thought it was Natalie Wood for a second.
I mean, I didn't like her character at all. I thought, no way would anybody go for her, but he did. Spoiler. But, I mean, you know it. Right?
It's Hollywood, for heaven's sake. So it's a romantic comedy?
It's not like it's not going to happen when you see... Just, let's see, what time... What date do I have on this? I'm not sure.
Could it be... wow, it could be early 60s. But,
I don't know. 63.
Early 60s. Yeah. I knew from her hairstyle.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
But honestly... I enjoyed the show. It was all right.
I didn't realize he kept his looks for that long.
I mean, you get to see a bear on a moped. That's pretty great.
You know,
I don't know who taught the bear to ride a moped, but it was awesome.
That wasn't photoshopped to AI.
Not back
Very
then.
impressive.
They would have actually taught the bear to ride a moped.
No, it wasn't a grizzly. I don't think.
No, it was a black bear.
There we go.
But
black bears. They're so agile, really, when you think about it. Remember that one that was... I think it wasn't fully grown, but he was big.
Oh, the one
that climbed the tree. He climbed up this high.
Yeah, it was so cute.
By the side of the road.
He was trying to get away, right?
From us. Yeah, we were driving. No, we weren't scrambling around. Right? He saw us from well away. But he didn't go into the forest. It was a tree right on the edge of the road.
And it was the tiniest tree, so it's not like it would offer him protection. He couldn't get up that high on it. I swear it was probably already bending. Just him getting in a little...
I hope he's okay. What a wonderful... You know, until recently, until last year, that was my favorite bear. But last year, I think we saw him twice. A little black
the little
bear
cub on the road.
He was
so
black.
Sweet.
A real black bear.
And we were worried about him.
He was playing on the road.
Yeah.
Like just gambling around and stuff like that.
And he did it more than once. So,
we saw him twice,
yeah. So I hope the little guy ended up okay, because...
Not roadkill.
Yeah.
Don't speed
in the national
in
park.
any sort of parks.
Ridiculous.
I still remember a fawn I saw in Birds Hill Park. was early in the morning. Some idiot was camping out there, had to go to work or something like that. The little fawn was on 3 legs. The other one,
Yeah, and
the
his
bottom
mom
part
was
of his
right
leg
with
was
him
hanging
and
like this.
knew,
The
you know,
mother
mom
was
knew. She looked
absolutely
devastated.
yeah. And the kid, he would have been in awful pain, was just running around trying to run away from the pain. And I'm telling you, if I'd caught that driver, not that I would have run him down or anything like that, he would have got not a lashing like he deserved, a tongue lashing like he never would have forgotten. His ears would have been burning. His brain would have felt as though he had shingles in it. Absolutely
and poor
disgusting.
little mom, you know, I felt so bad for her
Yeah,
there.
I know.
You know, she was
She
right
was
by her
absolutely
kid trying to,
horrified.
yeah,
you know.
like what would she do, right?
Nothing she could do. Like
No.
he'd be wolf kill. I don't know if they're like horses where they need to move around to keep their blood flowing and stuff like that. Shameful. But I'd seen guys drive, it would be invariably guys speeding through the park, you know, fogs lifting off of the landscape and stuff like that. This would be about, when would we leave? 7 in the morning or something?
Yeah, honestly,
like that.
you're in a park to enjoy nature and relax. Why are you speeding around? Stupid. This one deserved the bottom of the stack. It's so bad.
So what is it?
I don't know if I need to really talk about it. It's just really bad.
Arch enemy or arch
Yeah,
enemy?
it starts out with some bad animation. And from, you know, honestly, with the animation, I thought, oh, this is going to be bad. But luckily, that didn't stay very long. But honestly, the movie was bad anyway, so who cares?
Yeah.
So that's all I had to talk about. Now James is going to talk about something. I'm going to get to eat a little bit.
I think we're going to talk about a book that I've talked about before, Cold War. I reviewed it, about the 72 series between Canada and Russia. Also involved Sweden, halfway through the series, and Czechoslovakia after the series. I was so stressed out at the end of the series. Canada played Czechoslovakia. I think they tied the game up 3-3 with 4 seconds left. I just changed a light bulb in the 3rd period, and I was holding the light bulb by the business end. In other words, the bulbous end of the light bulb. And I was getting tenser and tenser and tenser, and I popped the light bulb, and I still have. So that was 1972. So it's more than 50 years ago. Still have the scar where that light bulb, part of it went into my index finger. So, but it was a culmination of stress in that series. And this Scott Morrison has this theory about why the Canadians won, and what is it? Oh, there's that good old Canadian hockey spirit, you know, never say die spirit. You got to have some talent, or spirit will not take you anywhere, really. And the Canadians had plenty of talent. They had different kinds of talents than the Russians had. The Russians had the kind of talent that could be drilled into people, you know, like stopping and starting, doing figure eights and so on and so forth, and then short interpassing, so on and so forth. Shooting not as good as the Canadians. They were good at shooting on the fly, the Russians were, particularly shooting off the wrong foot. Eventually, I think Mark Messier picked that up. I don't know how he did, but that was, I think he started his NHL career 8 years after 79, 80, so more like 7 years. Yeah, 7 years after this series. So he picked up being able to shoot off the wrong foot in order to trick goaltenders. But the Russians weren't that good with slap shots and so on and so forth. So, you know, one of the most mocked quotes ever to come out of any sort of sport is Paul Henderson saying, I started reviewing this book a while back. Yeah, it's funny. I was going through a picture at the end of the picture section in this book. And I was going through the players and identifying them. I even identified the flunky management coaching team, Alan Eagleson and John Ferguson and Harry Sinnen. Harry Sinnen, I think, is still working for the Boston Bruins. Ferguson, I think, is dead. And Alan Eagleson, I think he's dead. Brain dead, I think he was already. But I was going through, I don't think I got through all of the folks before the camera kicked out, but, you know, I started down here and worked my way back. J.P. Parise, Jean-Paul Parise. Yeah, I didn't get to Richard Martin, Richard Martin, Guy Lapointe, or Guy Lapointe, as they mispronounced his name. I was mispronouncing it too, but hopefully not as bad. And Rod Sealing. I'd got, I think, to Rod Sealing, maybe Guy Lapointe. The camera might have kicked out earlier. But the one player I glitched on is this guy here. Because I wasn't used to seeing face on. You know, you'd see him on the ice, and it was always in profile because he was going by. He was a fast guy. That was Paul Henderson. But, yeah, it was funny. I was looking at it after the session, the previous session. I said, oh, who's that? Oh, that's Paul Henderson. So I kind of glitched on it, but what they got everyone else just from their faces. So, yeah, Paul Henderson's right in the middle of this picture here and stuff like that. So they're saying it's Canadian hockey spirit. What it was more than anything else, oh yeah, what I was saying is Paul Henderson, he said something to the effect of, when I scored that goal, i.e. the winning goal of the whole series, not just in the last game, I knew what democracy was about, or was all about. Well, all about's a little bit over the top, but he knew what democracy was about. People were scorning that, particularly people of left-wing persuasion. Oh, democracy, what does that have to do with hockey? It doesn't have everything to do with hockey, but it has a lot to do with this series. The series that changed hockey forever, well, that's over the top. But Cold War, better title for this series. So you see Phil Esposito confronting, I don't know, who's that, Petrov or something like that. It's about two different, not just hockey systems, but societal systems. So the Soviet system, however much they might have styled it as a democratic system. For example, East Germany was called the German Democratic Republic. They left the UN before United Nations. No, the UN, the prefix before democratic. The German undemocratic republic. I guess you could call it a republic. I'd call it a dictatorship, but and a serious one at that. Totalitarian dictatorship. Putin apparently worked with the KGB in East Germany while the Soviet Union still existed. I don't think he was glad-handing people like typical politicians and patting the babies on the head and the women on the rump like Donald Trump might. Anyway, why am I talking about different social systems and how that might have affected hockey? The Russian hockey system, and not just the social system, political system, all the systems, they weren't, it wasn't just the political system, all were hierarchies, strict hierarchies. Now, the Russian hockey coach who started them off on their dizzying assault on the heights of hockey was a guy called Tarasov or Tarasov. I'm not sure where the accent comes. Anatoly, I think is his first name. I don't know what his patronymic, something that would look like a middle name was, but they'd gotten rid of it just before this series. And I wouldn't say that the coach, I've forgotten the name of the coach during the 72 series. He didn't last long. He was replaced by a guy called Victor Tikhonov or Tikhonov. And Tikh, I think, means, they joke when his team would fall behind in a series and give up and go, boy, he sure looks ticked off, because they'd call him Tikhonov, something like that, or Tikhonov. I think that means silent, and he'd give his players, I'm afraid, oftentimes the silent treatment. But I don't think he could send them to Siberia, but he could cost them their jobs. He's the kind of guy who, one time he turned up in a series, all his players shot left. That's stupid. You know, you think of people that were compatible with each other. One guy passing to a shooter, for example. And it tended to be like Wayne Gretzky, left-hand shot. I think Yarkar, it was a right-hand shot. Left, right. Steve Shutt, left-hand shot. Guy Lafleur, right-hand shot. Now, what's the significance of that? You see, you got a defenseman covering you here. The defenseman's supposed to play the body. So you get a guy like Guy Lafleur, right-hand shot. And you get a guy like Steve Shutt, big guy here, left-hand shot. Defenseman's playing the body. He doesn't want to get faked out by the body. Guy Lafleur's stick is out this side. Steve Shutt's stick is out this side. You see how you can pass that way? Let's say you get someone with a right-hand shot and right-hand shot. To make the pass, you got to go through the defenseman. Now you can go, like slip it between the skates or whatever. It's just harder to do. So here's Tikhonov. He's got all his players shooting left here. Left and left over here. Yeah. But that's the trouble when you get these dictatorial types. Or just, I'm not going to call them dictatorial type. Dictators. It's their way or the highway. Hopefully not the highway to Siberian hell or Soviet Central Asian hell. They sent a lot of people to labor camps in Soviet Central Asia. One of the worst was Vorkuta, up on the Arctic Ocean in the European side, so-called of Russia. I believe the Komi are native to that, K-O-M-I. Look that up in your Funkin' Wagnalls or on the internet, Wikipedia or whatever. Komi. Lenin, not John Lennon, he was half Irish, half Welsh apparently, but Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov, not Vladimir Ilyich Lenin. Lenin was a nickname that was adopted by Lenin. Ulyanov was his real last name. I've seen I recognized it. There was this little plaque in the Peter and Paul Fortress in, what was it called? St. Petersburg. It's called Leningrad then. And it said Alexander Ulyanov. He'd been, the fortress was the jail. I think they'd call it Petropavlovsk. We call it the Peter Paul Fortress. And I said to the guide, Lenin's brother, right? See, and there's no mention of Lenin in the name. Ulyanov, he's got, yeah, you're right. That was his older brother. And I'm not sure if he was put to death. I think he was. But he died in custody. A bit of an inspiration. Although I consider it a negative influence on Lenin. Lenin, if anything, was even harder, we'll say gluteus maximus than his brother, I think. But what were we talking about? Komi, that sort of stuff. Doesn't really matter that much. Cold War, hierarchies, dictatorships, and stuff like that. So Tikhonov was a dictator. Tarasov was a dictator. The coach of the Soviets at this, Soviets, that's such a bad name. They didn't believe in Soviets, kind of like a shop level democracy, and then it's a place where people get together and consult each other. That didn't happen here. It was the conversations you had with Stalin, or like with the conversations, only more so, that lefties, nifty, shifty, hefty lefties want to do nowadays. Two-step process. Condemnation, 1. Step 2, cancellation. In the case of Stalin, it's cancellation of your life. But and sometimes he wouldn't even give a condemnation. It was just, oh, okay. What he liked doing was he'd promote someone, and then next thing, 2 weeks later or whatever, the guy'd be killed or sent to Siberia, which was death on the installment plan.
You're gonna love that cookie.
Yeah, I know. I'm just tempted. I had to use that for Guy Lafleur because sweet. It's not on skates, but Guy Lafleur was a sweet skater
really
and
delicious.
puck handler, and actually it's kind of sweet when he shot, even his slap shot. I don't know how he did. Soft as silk, but it was it would probably hurt when it hit you.
James, and our diet hasn't been the healthiest because we decided a while ago, maybe a year ago, we decided, well, if a treat is given to us, then we're going to enjoy it. We're going to eat the treat. And so...
we just don't want to get too many.
Yeah.
And so...
So we accept treats.
Okay.
So if we see somebody's giving away cookies, like today at the home garden show.
So I can afford it. The last 4 weeks, I get weighed every 4 weeks, just in front of a treatment, and I actually lost 2 kilograms in the last 4 weeks.
Oh wow!
So that's like
You've been hiking
roughly
it off.
to a large extent. So I can kind of afford this. Yeah, that's a pound a week. Hiking can do that things for you, amazing sorts of things.
Yeah,
Get out
hiking
there
is
and
amazing.
That's not running or jogging or whatever.
Just going for a nice
hike.
little stroll in nature.
It's better if you can get swimming or stuff like that, because you can build up a little bit. You don't want too much muscle up here. You don't want to be bodybuilding, but you can get a little bit of muscle up here, and any extra muscle you've got is basically going to increase your metabolic system. Those muscles, even at rest, are going to be burning up extra calories.
Yeah, I mean, when we climb up the Cottonwood Hill and stuff, that you feel it.
Yeah, there's
But,
no doubt. I was feeling it a little bit in my my glutes and my.
Were you afterwards?
No.
Oh.
As it was going on.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling it at
No,
all. That
I
was
just
yesterday.
when I'm doing it, I have to stop for a while, take it slow, and just because it's a climb.
Well, it is. It's basically about as steep as anything I'm comfortable with. Let's say in water, in a mountain context, because I don't like going down inclines that steep. When it has limestone, but it has gravel or rocks or loose dirt, because I start surfboarding down, and I can't afford to go down because I got 5 fractured vertebrae, and I could get more or make those fractures even worse. So I got to be really careful. I don't like going down inclines that steep. That's about the limit of what we do. So if we do that, coming back out of it, we are trained for 300 feet, 100 meters rise. Well, that's pretty serious. I mean, go up to Avian Ridge. It's I think it's 750 meters rise, which is considerably more, but it tends to come in bursts and stuff like that, in the same way the Cottonwood. I mean, we'll go down to the river bottom, and we're working our way out, but at a much more relaxed pace. It'll be going like this, whereas Cottonwood is like this, and then boom, it's kind of like taking off a plane. Speaking of the Soviet Union, in the former Soviet Union with Aeroflot, I can remember